This is MC Fireside Chats, a weekly show devoted to the outdoor hospitality industry, hosted by Brian Searl and Cara Csizmadia. You'll hear from special guests that focus on topics to help your business succeed, all backed by Modern Campground, the most innovative news source in the industry.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of MC Fireside Chats. My name is Brian Searl, here as always with normally Cara Csizmadia. I got to really correct myself, Doug, when I start saying that, because Cara is coming, hopefully, to the show, but she's in a meeting right now and got stuck. But super excited to have you guys here. My name is Brian Searl with Insider Perks. We've got Mr. Doug Parker, who is hopefully a recurring guest with us at least once a month here. He runs currentcamper.com, also a long-standing blogger in the cruise industry, so just bought a rig kind of during the pandemic, and he's going to lend us his insights, kind of getting into the business, traveling, doing some of those kinds of things. And then we got Mr. Steven Dietrich. Did I pronounce that right, Steven?
Yep.
All right, Steven and Garrett Brown, who are joining us here to talk about their respective companies, a little bit of RV rental dabbling, and some electric, electric? Is it electric, or does it just have a barbecue grill attachment? Or are you guys introducing?
There is an electric option, yes.
Okay, very cool. So Garrett, why don't you start telling us about your cool little your trailer barbecue thing that you have? Because I'll butcher it, and we'd love to hear from you. Tell us what you got to contribute.
I appreciate that. So my name is Garrett Brown. I'm with Eventure Life. We are a trailer manufacturer. It all started a few years ago, actually, as a small little tailgater. We had a really unique concept for it, where our frame. Everything behind the front compartment actually splits open into a V, creating a really unique layout. Something we always consider to be a tiny issue in the RV world is you're kind of living in a hallway. We, with our split frame opening up and our event pod attachment, you actually get to sleep and hang out in a really nice hexagonal 13 by 13 tent that attaches to the trailer. It comes with an electric option for television or air conditioning, little plug and play stuff like that you'd want to do. The grill is a part of it. That was another thing we saw. I said, how come everything's just a tiny little 2-burner grill? So we went out and bought a 4-foot burner event griddle combo. It's actually Cabela's outfitted grill that we've retrofit into the trailer that slides in and out of the front frame. And then opposite of that is a prep station for your glamping hangouts. You can throw some, we've got some cool little pans that come out. You throw some ice in, chill your champagne, chill your drinks. Then underneath that is storage for a large cooler. And then we also provide a water container for the people that do choose to go off grid with it.
Awesome. I want to take a look at this in a few minutes. We're going to see if we can maybe pull up the website and give people some visuals and things like that. Steven, introduce yourself real quick, though, before we get started.
Sure. Hey, everyone. I'm the founder of vancation.com. So we are a boutique peer-to-peer marketplace for camper van rentals. We also do some of the overland rentals, unique RVs, tow behinds, but primarily camper van Class B is our focus. We're just launching our renter side this month after coming out of development from like 18 months ago we started probably. So I think we've built a pretty cool system, and we have around 1,100 listings currently on the platform all around the country. Probably mostly West Coast. It's more popular, but we're seeing people out in Chattanooga with van life, and it's really spreading around. So yeah, thanks for having me on the show.
I appreciate you coming, Steven, and Garrett too. We're going to have these are two topics that really kind of fascinate me, right? RV rentals as a kind of industry, probably, is it safe to say they existed, but they didn't really exist in the mass mind of consumers pre 3-4 years ago? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, the T1Ns were before this. Now it's becoming more mainstream for sure, especially since pandemic started. So
yeah, I mean, it's fascinating how it's kind of become a second, and to be fair, like Airbnb, I don't know how long they've been around, probably only 7, 8 years, right? Really in the mainstream there. And so it's interesting how these new industries are kind of popping up, not obviously as a result of COVID in Airbnb's case, but just driving more consumer awareness and ways for different people to make money. So I definitely am interested to explore that topic. And then these innovations that are coming out of the industry. Obviously, there's always been the big manufacturers with trailers and rigs and RVs and all those kinds of things who are adding new features and smart technology and, more pullouts and sofas and cramming more luxurious items into there. But it's these really small manufacturers like you, Garrett, not to call you small, but niche, right, is what I really mean.
We are.
Who are innovating in new ways that you're kind of seeing a problem, taking it, troubleshooting it, and fixing it, which really kind of interests me as there's a larger market, but we're seeing it kind of break off into these niches. And I admittedly don't know as much as I should about RV manufacturing and things like that. It's something I'm more close to the campground industry side of things, but I'm definitely excited to learn about. So let's start with you, Garrett. And you talked a little bit about the features and things like that of your trailer. We'll pull that up in a second to take a look at it. But what are some of the reasons that you got into this to the beginning with? How long have you been in it? What made you get into it in the first place? Those kinds of things.
So I got into the RV industry, I believe it was like 2017, 2018 maybe. And what it was just, I'm from southern Iowa. We had an RV startup show up a few towns over. I applied for a job, and I actually worked there for a few years. Ended up holding pretty, worked pretty high up in the company there for a little. Myself and my two other partners actually decided we were going to try and do it our own way with our own product. And so we left and started Eventure Trailers like a day before COVID happened, I think is what it was. It was seriously like, maybe we signed the LLC, then the next day was the big and all that. So that was kind of interesting.
Did you, obviously we all know in hindsight now that as much as we were panicking there at the beginning of COVID, it seemed to turn out really well for the outdoor hospitality industry, campgrounds, RVs, those kinds of things. What was going through your mind that day? Like when you just signed it and now this is happening?
I didn't really think much of it other than what became the issue. And also I do want to say, like, the first model that we went to the market with is nothing like this new model that we debuted last month.
Okay.
But it was, the initial sales plan was, hey, well, we're just going to drive this around and show people face to face, and nobody was letting anybody in. So we did, had to do a lot of stuff through emails and phone calls. That was probably the biggest challenge.
Well, so you bring up an interesting thing. I'll follow up on it with when you say driving door to door to show people. As a smaller niche manufacturer who's just getting into this, right? When you're talking about it a couple years ago, how do you do that? How do you break into, like, if there are other people who want to do these kinds of similar things? How do you break into that? Getting it at dealerships? Are you trying to do that? Are you trying to?
I think it was just kind of an ignorance is bliss kind of thing. We didn't really think about it. It was just, hey, we're building these. We have these to sell. Let's go sell them. It was just, and then, like I said, once we found out that nobody was accepting on-site visitors, it was just basically cold calling. We'd search dealerships on the internet who maybe would carry something to us, and we'd call them and pitch them and show them product and, kind of initiate stations there. And we still do it that way a little bit too. We have been fortunate since the new model was released that people are contacting us now, which is, awesome in its own right. But the thing was just adapt and overcome, I guess, was kind of the mindset behind it.
Now, I know you came from experience, as you said, working for another company. Is there kind of do you have to have these things certified? Is there a whole lot, like a legal process to go through where you have to make sure that specific guidelines are followed when you're building them? Yeah,
we had, I can't even remember all the names of all the stuff that we had to go through and get approved for. But that was a big part. And, kind of, we didn't know as much as we thought about the RV industry when we started this. So we have learned a lot in the last 2 years. There are a lot of rules to follow, a lot of certificates to have, things like that. But I think it's only made us stronger, and I really do support that the industry does it because it does make sense.
Steven, are some of these, I don't know if you've seen Garrett's units, and we'll show them in a second here, but Steven, are these some of the types of things that would be listed on Vancation, or are you focused solely on camper vans? Are you open to other things, or tell us a little bit about what you list and what can.
Yeah, as long as you can sleep in it and it's unique and cool, that's what we're going for. So, hey, that could be.
What's the definition of unique and cool? I feel like I'm old and I don't know what cool is anymore. So,
we're trying to. If we were just to accept Class C, Class A, some of those more classic style RVs, I feel like our brand wouldn't have anything unique enough going for it with monsters out there currently in the marketplace. So we're trying to focus on like camper vans, especially. Obviously, that's the big one right now. And then unique schoolies, that kind of thing. Overland Jeeps with tents, like all that kind of fun stuff. It brings
Steven,
a different kind of rent.
On some of those camper vans, do they come with hitches? Like, are they able to tow stuff?
Yeah, one of mine has a hitch. I don't have a boat yet, but I'll be that guy going to the lake with it, with the boat behind here in Tahoe. So hey, for sure,
that's awesome. I'd be happy to show you the coolest tow behind outdoor event hub for those camper vans when we get off this call here.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Actually,
you're not biased at all, Garrett?
No, just confident.
Go ahead, Steven. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, I forgot what I was saying. One of the features is owners can block or allow tailgating or like go into events. Most of them are cool with it. They're pretty relaxed on things like that. So, yeah, tailgate there.
So now here's a question, and maybe Doug, you can kind of pipe in here. Like you went through this process of purchasing. I forget what kind of trailer do you have, Doug, that you bought?
It's a travel, a travel light. I think 23-foot bunkhouse. I think it's called.
Okay. So from a mind of a consumer's perspective, and maybe you want to just kind of speculate on this, Doug, like when you were going to purchase your rig, being new to the industry, things like that, obviously you probably went to dealers, and maybe this is a conversation we can all have together that eventually leads to unique RV rentals, right? But if I'm a consumer and I'm used to buying cars my whole life and trucks, and I'm going to dealers and things like that, and I'm getting into the industry, or I'm going to buy a new rig, why would I want to look for a unique camper van that Garrett sells? Why would I want to do the rental experience versus doing, like, how does that mind shift from a consumer perspective to like Teslas, right, aren't sold at dealerships? How do I shift that consumer perspective to I can look different places instead of just where everybody says I should look?
Well, for me, it was just, I wanted something that looked really cool with my truck as well, like a dark color, kind of aerodynamic and all of that. So I started at Camping World and then kind of went to those small mom and pop places. Then I finally bought it at a mom and pop place as well. So I don't know, for me, it was just style and what I wanted it for, like Glacier National and Yellowstone, like Utah camping and stuff like that out west. And so that's the reason why I picked what I picked. And I started kind of used Camping World as a baseline, and then kind of just went out and explored everything from like someone on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist to the small mom and pops. And I just kind of went that route, as I said.
So Steven and Garrett, let's toss it to more of your kind of niche, right? Like obviously you have an RV rental site that's more of a niche for camper vans. Garrett, you're making kind of a niche product. How do I reach out to the consumers from your perspective? And I feel like there's some cross here, right? And say like, you don't need to go to the camper world. So look what I have. This is better or different or unique or cool or whatever it is. How do I reach those consumers and tell them those things?
So actually, we're working on our phase 2.5, whatever you want to call it. It's a van builder marketplace. So indie builders are really huge in the van, marketplace. We're going to have an Airbnb style website that will be able to find, top van builders in Reno or whatever city it is. And it's all free. Van builders can sign up free, and you can obviously browse and contact builders for free. So that'd be one really awesome way to find builders specifically. Google doesn't do the best job so far, probably will in 5 years, but for now, that leaves a good opening. So that's one that we're doing for sure, yeah.
Garrett, any ideas?
Yeah, Steven, I think what you guys are doing, I think that's awesome. On our end, the more the merrier. one thing that I do think is nice about having a brick and mortar location is the end consumer can actually go in and see the product. There's a lot of manufactured right now, and it does, I think, come down a lot to the quality when customers are making their choices. So being able to touch it, feel it, or have access to, like Steven was saying, if I could look up a van builder that's 20 miles away from me and I can go over there and see everything by myself and see the quality and how it's put together, I think that is absolutely huge for the end consumer.
Yeah, and what's cool is because we're a rental site first, obviously we make a small transaction fee on the renter side. We're free for owner side for transactions, which is the first. But if you go to a van builder's profile, the plan is you'll be able to see all the rentals available that were built by that builder. You'll also eventually be able to see all the listings for sale that were built by that owner as well. So it's kind of like a free portfolio for them. So that's kind of what Vancation Project is going to progress to over the next year here. And a lot of it's already live. So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Steven, on your site on Vancation, like what separates Vancation from an RV share? Because I just bought a second camper to rent out, and I did it once an RV share, and it was a pain in the butt, man. People, they brought it back, and of course they don't treat it like it's their own anyways. Bring it back a disaster and not emptying the tanks and all that stuff. Like what's the big or would like a 18-foot off the road unit even be able to be listed on your site, or is it just for like vans and stuff like that?
No, definitely that would be part of it. We're really just trying to close off Class C, Class A for the time being, unless you have we work with a lot of fleets, so we might accept a few if they're part of a large fleet only.
Gotcha.
But yeah, our owner side fees are a lot lower. We've been signing people up with 0% fees actually. We're going to move that to 8% at the top end once we go live for renters this month. Other than that, it's just more streamlined. You can e-sign all the contracts. There's a document management system in your owner dashboard. We do all the same vetting, but you will have issues with renters. I can't prevent that entirely. Sure. We do our background checks automatically, credit check, DMV checks on the renters, ID verification. Like all the systems are in place for it.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a decision you need to make. I'm in an RV right now in my own camper van that we built. I don't think I would rent this personally. This one, It's our baby, and our new baby that's coming will be sitting in this seat. So it's kind of like a personal decision. A lot of people are making some pretty decent side income off of it, though. So it's your own choice.
So sorry, guys. I don't know if you can hear me. My dog just ran underneath the cord and disconnected my microphone. But I'm having all kinds of technical issues today. This is what happens when I go on vacation and come back in 45 minutes before the show. So rental specifically, right? Let's talk like our primary audience here for this show is campground owners, developers, people like that in the outdoor hospitality industry, RV industry, things like that. So if you're do you guys work primarily, and maybe this question is to Steven first, do you guys work primarily with people who are looking to camp off grid in the vans or go to private campgrounds in tourist areas, or is it a mix of both?
It's definitely a mix of both. I'd say boondocking is a little bit more popular with van life. That's like kind of the big perk of it, especially because these days it's hard to get a spot at a campground. Things are booked out. You might get a last minute kind of thing, and it'll be a day in this spot and 2 days in that one. I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's a mix. It's hard to say. I'm not really sure.
I mean, is there a benefit to a company like yours working with the private campground industry to help people find spots, or is it kind of one of those things where you'd rather have a hands-off approach?
Definitely. We're talking to, I'll just do a quick shout out for them. Their Vanley is one, obviously Hip Camp, you refer them to them. There's a few other like the Dirt and so on that you can find, BLM Land and so on. They have a nice app where they integrated it all pretty clean for finding where to camp for free and so on. So we're also working on our itineraries. So like if you land in, I don't know, Reno, where to camp around the Tahoe Basin and things like that. We're doing all the popular cities. So that's another like little side content project that we're working on. But that's, yeah. we'll definitely have to start partnering up with some of the campground specific companies, because that's half the battle, right? Like where to stay. So.
Yeah, do you think there's, I mean, I feel like there's a mutual opportunity here, right? And I would say the same thing to an outdoorsy or an RV share or the bigger companies, right? To provide a niche type experience. There are obviously people who, there are good opportunities for people to go camping in BLM land. Sometimes it's better to be in a national park or a state park, depending on what you want to see. But there are also a lot of benefits to being in private campgrounds, depending on where you're going and what amenities you want. And are you traveling with a family or a new baby in your case, right? And maybe you want something that's different than somebody who doesn't have a family to travel with. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of unique opportunities here as you continue to grow and evolve to cross promote each other. So I'm excited to see where that goes. Garrett, tell us about this barbecue thing. Like, I want to pull up your website. What's your website, Garrett? Pardon my closeness to the camera here. I want to check out this cool little barbecue attachment that you have and see. Let's see, Eventure Life.
It's a standard built into every trailer.
Glamping Eventure. Is this what we're looking at right here? Or is it wrong? All right, Eventure Life. So I'm going to share this. Sorry. This is what I'm looking at right here?
That's us. And actually, that's our temporary website. We have one going live this weekend that we just kind of doctored up and shown some more photos on. So that is the rear of the trailer there. So that is what we call the event pod, and that is actually not the actual event pod. That is just to simulate what it is. The actual event pod will launch this weekend, which is similar 13 by 13 hexagon structure. We just built it much tougher because some guy told us that it wouldn't withstand a Florida windstorm, and we had to prove him wrong. It is a solid unit now. So that's the rear trailer. You can see you got the TV attachment. You got your it's on a slider, so it slides up and down. Underneath it is the power pack for the electric. That is running completely off of the electric right there, which is solar powered. You can charge it when you choose to. You can also charge it, just plug it in and charge it up somewhere. There are luxury cushions on both seating, and then in the evening, you can actually close the wings together and it will form the dimensions of a queen bed for you and the kids to get a good night's rest while you're out camping. And then during the day, you open it up and you almost have like a fun little hangout. In this current picture, there are the mesh sidewalls. It also comes with solid sidewalls for when you're actually using it as a tent and want your privacy while you're going to bed.
Okay, so this is way cooler than I had pictured in my head. Like, I'm trying to wrap my head around this now. So these couches that we're looking at are actually the trailer, and they fold together for a queen.
You are looking at the rear.
I want one of these. Can I have one?
We will talk afterwards. I'd be happy to get you one.
I don't know where I'd park it, but that's fantastic. Like, look at, so there. Okay, this is cool, Doug. Wouldn't this be cool to go tailgating in? Like, you would be the star of the show.
Yeah, I was just thinking, that's perfect for going to a Kenny Chesney concert or Buffett or Garth Brooks at a stadium or something. And
so I'm really glad you guys are saying this. That is kind of our whole purpose. Like I said, when we left, my partners and I left our last company, our biggest thing was we were seeing a lot of people spending decent amounts of money for things that they would only get to use maybe 5 weekends out of the year, because they love camping, but everybody's busy and things always come up. And you really kind of got to square away that time to take that weekend off and go camping. So we were like, well, what if, you're camping with it one weekend and you can tailgate with it the next? And, we think there's a huge market for little youth parents. We think these things would be great set up at the 2-day weekend softball tournaments away from home. Just a cool little spot to hang out at in between games. A lot of applications.
I know. I'm thinking okay, from a private campground perspective, right? Like, what if I were to purchase these as a campground owner and set them up as even little gazebos where people could sit during the day and play cards, or I don't know. Obviously you could rent them out as accommodations too.
And actually, if you want to keep scrolling, I can kind of show you the front side of the grill or the front side of the trailer.
I'm already fascinated by one picture.
So that's the trailer fully enclosed. Lightweight. You can pull it with a Jeep.
Super small.
Oh yeah, under 1,500 pounds.
Oh my God, you're right. That grill is sweet.
That's the grill slide out right there. Cook for an army on it. And then I don't remember what other pictures we have up just yet. Like I said, we have a bunch of new ones that we're going to be showing this weekend. There's we hooked up our Margaritaville blender up top there.
Oh, well, that's important. Yeah.
And then underneath the prep station is a pool. You can't really see it, but that's where your cooler slide is. So you pull that out. You can set in a big old cooler in there, and then it also comes with a 5-quart water container for if you're really getting far and away from your resources.
I will admit my imagination is tends to run away with me sometimes, and it gets me in trouble, especially when I propose things to campground owners that they just look at me like, have you ever owned a campground before? That would never work. But this would be cool, like to kind of, you could even almost sell like refreshments out of it or something near the pool, like without having a permanent structure.
I don't
know.
Do whatever they can with it. And like, in terms of its weight, I mean, we pull this thing around with a little, a UTV. So, for a campground owner, they don't have to worry about hooking up trucks. They can just throw it on a 4-wheeler and move it around, set it up wherever they would like to.
Well, so I'm thinking about like some of the larger resorts we work with, right? Are like they'll rent out the gazebos by the pool, and sometimes they'll be inside the pool fence. And the ones that I've seen, admittedly, there's probably more elaborate ones that I haven't, but the ones that I've seen are just like you see at the water park resorts, right? Where you'll go in and there's just like a little couch and some tables there, and that's really all it is. And admittedly, you couldn't really put these inside of a pool fence, but if you put them near your pool, I imagine that there would be people who would rent these out for 6, 7 families in some cases, and then they could bring their refreshments down to the pool and hang out all day, and they could have shade to get out of the sun for their kids so they wouldn't get burnt, and they could maybe not have margaritas. That might not be such a good idea around the pool, but they could cook out and things like that. Like, I mean, you could probably rent these. Like, I remember renting the tents for $100 plus $200 a day in addition to whatever I wanted at a resort. This might be an interesting source of income. How much do they cost?
So we have a base model, will MSRP anywhere between 13 or 14, and then a fully loaded setup, which is your electric, the event pod, the lighting, everything is an MSRP at the highest at 17 fully loaded.
I don't know, man. Campground owners, if you're watching, like, put in the chat if I'm crazy. But I feel like this is cool.
That's a good cash on cash at $12K. You could rent it for $165 a night. Yeah, I like it. Then you could just rent out any like Jeep and just put that thing on your hitch. There you go.
When I was talking about, we used to cold call during the COVID, we would call the van life type companies, and we would pitch ourselves as the perfect outdoor entertainment hub. So, you tow us behind your camper van, you got, sleep inside, but then during the day when you're at your destination, you can set this up and have a cool little hangout outside with your kids.
How much amperage is it? Is it 30 or 50 amp or what?
So the way we do our solar, we have 3 options. What's featured there, and the one that we recommend, which is the highest power, is a Westinghouse iGen 1000. It is literally just like the top of the line of a power pack, and then it's solarly recharged. So if you can actually do your own solar setup in here, we have a universal mount for it on the inside for you to set a power pack. We use Westinghouse. We like that one. We've tested it, tried it. It lasts long. It charges quick. But it's that's what we recommend. But that is not what you have to use at all. There's so many. We think that this trailer works very well with the outdoor gear stuff, and there's so many cool outdoor gear options going on right now, like the stuff people are doing with these solar power packs, the stuff. I mean, just even tents these days. Everything is getting better and cooler and smarter, and we just wanted to make sure that it could work with our trailer. If a customer ends up being a gearhead and they just love having the newest, best, all the new Dometic stuff, all the new this, that. So everything should work and complement your experience with the trailer.
I mean, I'm thinking about the reason I ask about amperage is like the parks have karaoke night. Like, you could drag this thing around, like, and just pop it up and plug in your karaoke machine.
Right, if I could get a video of this thing set up at a campground with some cool lights going on, some cool music, anybody but me singing, that would be great.
Like, I feel like, Garrett, get in touch with me. I put you in touch with some campground owners. I'm not saying they would do it or adopt it, but like, I feel like this is very versatile, and
Thank you.
can be moved very easily, and obviously there's benefits to having permanent infrastructure, right? Pavilions and things like that, and gatherings and group places. But this could be moved around to do ice cream socials. This could be like, I mean, you could have pop-up, like,
one
don't
trailer
know.
for every weekend. That's our tagline.
And not even just renting it, but just using it as a facility for the campground. I don't know what the insurance looks like on it or anything like that, but I feel like it can't be that crazy.
It's very minimal. So it's
Anyway,
yeah, but thank you very much
This is-
for spending some time. I
this is
appreciate
what happens. Steven, I'm sorry we didn't get, we're going to talk about you now, I promise. Like, I got distracted there for a second, but what's your, yeah, I mean, that's the possibilities of that are amazing. Like, Doug, come on, what do you think about that?
No,
Like,
no, I'm down. Yeah. I mean, I was just thinking about, I'm going to see Chesney over in Salt Lake City in July, and it's going to be hot as
You
heck
wanna know
over
what's
there.
funny?
That'd be something like, if that was available, I would totally rent that over there next to the stadium over there.
Where's that concert at?
I think it's downtown Salt Lake. I think where he's playing.
Okay.
yeah, that's,
So,
I mean,
what's funny, you see Chesney. We always get people either say, "Oh, you should take us to a Kenny Chesney concert," Jimmy Buffett. Those are the two names they always throw out.
Yeah. Chesney just played down the street in Tampa 2 weeks ago, and there were tons of little setups like that. The mobile bars and people just kind of bringing their own thing and making their own thing. It's really cool. I could see that really fitting in a vibe like that.
Yeah, it's
Well, like, even
music festival season's coming up, and we're hoping to take it to one or two just to get some pics of it out in the wild.
well, that's the other thing. Like, if you think outside of the box, even as a campground, in order to make ancillary revenue, what if you have these available to rent for people who are going to a Kenny Chesney concert or an event, or they're camping at your campground, and they can take this thing right to the, hook it up to, because it doesn't have much tow weight, right? I mean,
No.
I imagine a large or a small SUV.
Like I said,
Yeah,
we
you could
pulled it
tow it.
with an old 1984 Jeep Wrangler that barely starts, but once it's started, it pulls the trailer just fine.
I love Jeeps. I need to get a Jeep again. We're not going to get into that discussion. Steven, you're going to get me too far off topic. Steven, let's talk about these van life things, because I honestly and admittedly do not know as much as I should about it. And I feel like there's a lot of misconception from what I've heard within the private campground industry about people, the type of people who do it, what they're looking for, whether they're using private campgrounds or boondocking. So just kind of give us a little bit of insight into, start with just van life overall. What does van life mean to you?
Ooh, that's
I know. I'm giving you a tough one. It's open-ended
So-
though. You can take it any direction you want.
Well, I got into it probably 3 years ago, so I'm pretty new with it. More of a development kind of guy myself, financial. Anyways, I don't know. We built probably 5 vans now with a couple friends. One of them is a custom home builder. So I've learned all the in and outs of, like, electric systems, alternator chargers, all that, all the amenities that go with it. Anyways, yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking about Garrett's thing for a second there.
I know we all got distracted with Garrett's thing. He's the star of the show now. No, it's okay, Stephen. Like, so I mean, really what I'm trying to kind of get at here, right, is if I'm looking at this website and I'm unfamiliar with the van life, whether I'm somebody who wants to start in it as a consumer, or whether I'm maybe a private campground owner who wants to attract more of these people who are renting from your site or purchasing, or that kind of demographic, I'm trying to get, I guess, a basic understanding of who these people are that are renting vans. Are they eventually purchasing them? Are they, what is their path in the industry forward?
Yeah, so I think it's 85% of renters are first timers. And obviously there's 2 groups. It's probably the, late 20s, early 20s kind of age. And then you also have your empty nesters who are downsizing and they're wanting to get back into, out of their class C and class A's and back into class B's, seats 2 kind of thing, is plenty of room. I'd say people that are in the younger group are, trying to figure out if it's right for them. It's not right for everybody, for sure. Especially you don't have all your usual luxury amenities at home, depending on which van you're renting, that is. But yeah, easier to drive than like a standard RV. It's more fuel efficient, which is actually becoming a bit of an issue with cost for a trip, because diesel's at $5.50. By me, it's $6.50 a gallon. So that is hurting things. And you have your holdouts for buying where they're waiting for the electric vans to come out, things like that. So it's kind of in a little bit of a holding pattern for some people, but yeah, it looks like you're looking at some of our favorites. Yeah, if you go to the last page there, I could show you one of the vans that we just built. Actually, I'll show you the one that I'm in right now is that one. You'll love it. Yeah, I'm sitting in this van right now, here in Reno. So
very cool. Ooh, see, I like that. Like I don't know, like I don't know if I could do this long term, right? For one, I'm old and my back's terrible, and I need more mobility to move around because I'm 40 now. I just turned like that earlier this year, so I feel like things are just on the way down for me. But like those kinds of little adventures appeal to me. Just the look how the doors open on the right hand side, just letting you kind of like totally take in nature. But I think that's like, I don't know, like I'm really interested to talk to campground owners, and maybe I need to do more of a study on this and have a better conversation with them as to how many of these guys are ending up, because there's obviously such a huge swing with the demographic, right? From the guy we were looking at, scrolling through the pictures, from the guy who has the Jeep, who puts the tent on top, he's probably more of a boondocking person, to the guy who has these fancy Mercedes like we're looking at right now. And I've seen the insides of some of those things. I think Airstream actually collaborated with Mercedes on a really, really nice one that has off the grid stuff and electricity and really kind of upscale modern luxury stuff. And obviously there's builders like you who are creating these things. But I feel like if you're investing into a Mercedes type level thing, yes, you might be doing some boondocking, but you're also probably traveling extensively throughout a network of private campgrounds, whether it's KOAs, UEs, or independent parks, or whatever they may be. Is that fair?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it depends what stage you're at in your life, right? When it was just my wife and I and the dogs, yeah, sure, we can boondock. It's not always the safest or, the nicest. Now we have a little girl coming, and I'll probably be staying at campgrounds more often and planning my trips ahead of time and, things like that. The other thing is some of these nicer vans, they're fully enclosed, so campground owners aren't going to hate us too much where we're dumping all over. So, it has a gray tank with a switch, so you can drive it to where you need to. It's just a classic RV at that point, just with a slightly more unique design on the inside. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask probably an ignorant question from my perspective, right? Just because I don't know enough about this industry, but just for how do I, if I'm a consumer and I want to rent one of these things, obviously it says right there that we're looking at it's 125 miles a day for free. So there's obviously they're charging for mileage after a certain extent, and then the delivery is within 50 miles. So can I take this thing anywhere? Is there limits? Can I drive it across the country and back? How does the whole thing work? How do I find one that's nearby me?
This is my listing. Every owner is a little different. So I happen to own the platform and some vans that I rent out on it, if that's confusing. But I'll probably switch to unlimited miles for this one. A lot of the, like say I actually have a couple of those Airstreams listed here as well. Someone down in LA, I think it is. Anyways, they have a limit on the number of miles as well. And usually you'll do a tier 1. So if you do 100 miles or more a day, there's a little bit of an overage. If you have Westies, they think about renting a little bit differently because, they're higher mileage. There's more maintenance costs that go into it. So they try to think about their rental revenue in terms of revenue per mile instead of per night. So it is kind of a big thing to make enough money per mile driven. We like renters that don't drive too much. But yeah, you could take it anywhere though. I mean, Canada, all around the US, the only block is Mexico you can't go to because of insurance. And then New York, if you're registered in New York State, peer-to-peer isn't really allowed there just yet. So other than that, we're good to go.
So you can't rent it in New York if you own it.
Yeah, if you're registered in New York, you can take it I don't know, Connecticut or wherever you're coming from. You can drive in, but you can't actually. That's not your launching point. So.
Okay, got it. I mean, it's the whole thing. The whole thing is really interesting to me. Just the ability for people to make extra income and things like that. But the uniqueness of it, and like the things that you're talking about, you're building, the ability for, we talked about Garrett's thing, but the sky is really the limit if you strip away one of these inside of these vans and just kind of be creative, right?
Yeah, I mean, Garrett's thing would be a cool add-on. I think like 165 a night is what I'd imagine it would go for. Or you can do we'll set you up at a campsite, so if I'm a renter, I just want it to be set up and done. They'd pop his system in at an actual campsite ready to go, and then you can just rent that out. You don't even have to own a campground. You just make sure you reserve it, kind of like a concierge service, and set it up for them. And that could be another one. So.
Yeah, I mean, we've had different conversations with people on this show before. Like, I know that one of our regular guests is Kurt Opanchik from National Parks Traveler. He's putting together a really good guide that you guys should check out, just focused on, where to go and how to route and where to camp around the national parks. And he's including both public and private campgrounds and things like that, kind of an ultimate guide to the national parks. But I think this is one of the kind of fragmented areas of the industry that really needs kind of a tighter integration. Like if I'm on any site, right? I'm not just picking on your site, but if I'm on your site and I'm looking at, okay, there's a camper van rental near Yellowstone National Park. So if I rent it, where do I go camping? And this is not just a unique you problem. And I don't think it's very easily solved at all, or you would have done it already. But now that I've got this van, or I'm looking at this van, yes, I want to go to Yellowstone, but then where do I take it? How do I find that inventory? How do I know that where I'm parking it is safe or actually on BLM land and allowed, and all those kinds of things? I think there's such a unique and interesting way to tie all this stuff together that hasn't really been done well yet. And I don't know. Go ahead.
It's kind of tough because federal, so recreation.gov exists. That was built by a private company. I actually interned with them, Booz Allen Hamilton, when I was first out of college a million years ago. But they built recreation.gov in partnership with the federal government. And they are private, for profit. They take transaction fees on those bookings, but I really feel like that escalated demand insanely. They have a really good UI. But anyways, I do feel like if it were to become an open system where I can book state and federal through a private company, and it was easier access, that I'd be able to build it. But right now, even HipCamp, you can't book campgrounds on HipCamp for state. Yeah. And they need to open their system up, make it more accessible to private companies. That's one thing that I'd build it if it was, but it's closed off right now. So yeah.
Well, even not unnecessarily, because I'm familiar with that a little bit too, the integrations and the fragmentation with reservation systems, and everybody uses some different things like that, from private to public to whatever. But even if there's just a way where you could surface recommendations for these are highly rated campgrounds in the area, even if you just pull it from Google reviews or something and display the top 5 or 10 campgrounds through an API that are highly rated near east side of Yellowstone, west side of Yellowstone, whatever.
Yeah, there's all the places on GitHub. That's what you need to use. That has all your data, so it exists. It's actually a pretty good unlock. Yeah, so I don't know. HipCamp does it pretty well. I keep going back to them, and they're pretty big. I like how they've set everything up. I'm a fan.
Well, so the problem with HipCamp, though, is like you just said, it doesn't cover private campgrounds for the most part, and so I think there are benefits to having. Not that private campgrounds are the be-all, end-all. There's use cases for everything else, but I think I think there definitely needs to be a solution to drive people to whatever you're looking for. If that's private, if that's public, if that's boondocking, if that's whatever it is, glamping, whatever it may be. Not in the case of RV rentals, obviously, and camper vans, but it's just interesting to me, because I think that the ultimate solution, the person who's really going to succeed here and be kind of a king, and whether that's, I'm not suggesting that that's done through an RV rental marketplace, right? But somebody who can tie all this information together and provide the convenience that consumers want, because that's ultimately what they want to want. They don't want to call on the phone. They don't want to ask questions. They just want to book it. But if they have to go look at rental vans here and then research Yellowstone and then research where they want to go in Yellowstone and then research what campground, it's a long process. I mean, I know I just came back from Niagara Falls and did that, and it took me like 2 or 3 days. And admittedly, I like curating my experiences more than other people, but it took me a lot of different websites to get to, even in staying at hotels like I was doing. So I don't know. I think it's an interesting time. I think a lot of things are going to change. I think voice search is going to be an interesting player for everybody in the future, but I don't know. I'm interested to see where this goes and where this evolves, but I think we're more fragmented than the hotel industry. I think there's a lot of opportunity for all of us here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely, we're still a startup and we're just finishing up our rental side of things, which was a huge task to get even this far. I think our biggest play next is going to be on the van builder marketplace, then into the buy sell, get that all integrated. On the content side, itineraries and campgrounds, like where to camp, is a huge market and definitely has a lot of untapped, potential. There's already players in there though, like I've already named off a few. So, I mean, other than referring traffic over.
Maybe the reverse is, maybe it's the reverse then, right? Maybe you go to something like The Dirt and say, here are my listings, integrate my things with you.
Yeah.
Is that more feasible?
If The Dirt's watching, I'm interested.
Well, we had the CEO of The Dirt on before, but just as an example, right? I think there's mutual benefits to all of us working together. So it interests me to see where this continues to evolve. Doug, like what goes through your mind as a consumer when you're trying to book? Because it's been a long time since I've actually booked a personal camping trip. But what are some of the things how difficult is it for you right now like you're taking a trip to Montana here, right?
Yeah.
At the end of August.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess you have to do it like, obviously we booked our spot like 8 months ago because it's impossible to find anything at Yellowstone or Glacier and all that but yeah, I guess, are you asking me, Brian, like what am I seeing as far as like, when I'm going out looking for a trip and like the resources I'm using and everything?
Well, what are the pain points for you, right? So we're talking about ways that the industry can integrate better together. So when you're looking to research both a destination and where to camp and how to do it and whether to rent an RV or haul your existing one up there or whatever, what are some pain points that you see that might be able to be solved and make it easier on the consumer in the future?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like what we were just talking about, like having like a reference guide, I guess, like your buddy's building, you were saying, or a book. But like we want to do some like BLM at Escalante, and it was just like we couldn't figure out, someone who's new to it like us, we couldn't figure out what the heck we were doing. And I don't know, it feels like there needs to be like a portal, right, that shows everything that an amateur, someone like me, who's been doing it for like a year and a half, I still don't know how to get like a permit for going onto the BML land or whatever, BLM land.
I always used to hear like it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. So I don't know if that works with the federal government. I wouldn't try it. I'm not advocating for it, but
yeah, I don't know. It's just there's a lot of education. I guess like kind of like a knowledge base needs to be built for someone who is just getting into it, because I can tell you, like, I just got into it. I've been cruising for once or twice a year since I was like 9 years old, and like pandemic hit and I couldn't get on a cruise ship. So I bought a camper because I wanted to see like the US. I had no clue what the heck I was doing. And so I was just like YouTube, whatever, all these sites trying to figure out what to do. But if there was like a guidebook, a website, a portal that showed everything, like a 101 type thing, that would be totally awesome. There is like a disconnect there. And even with my buddy, when he rented from RV Share earlier this summer, he didn't know like what campground to use as well. It was somewhere in Washington State in the Northwest. And so they were like going on different sites, trying to find the sites and things like that. Like, and I don't know. There's a lot of disconnection, I think.
I think the curation is an interesting aspect of it. Steven, is there an opportunity, even if you can't integrate with people, is there an opportunity to curate experiences and packages and say, somebody on our site is listing this rental near Yellowstone National Park. So we're going to create a partnership with them, as we already have. We're going to list the rental on our website, and then we're going to say, either rent it by yourself or upgrade to this package that includes 2 nights or 4 nights at this park that we've vetted and we know is clean and we know you'll have a good experience and we know you can get in on these dates or whatever.
So, there's a free way to do it, which is what we're working on. And it's common places, the best places to stay. It doesn't guarantee that it's available. So it has, holes in it, but it'll kind of point you in the right direction. There's also owners that are doing more premium add-ons, like one owner, their Go Romeo, I think it is. They charge a fee for this, but they'll actually act as your concierge for your trip, which takes a lot of the stress away, especially, you know, most people are new first timers. You get in this van and then you're like, oh crap, now what do I do? So you'll have, you know, where to go here on day one, do these things if you want, go here on day two. It's, you know, it's a little bit more expensive, but it'll take some of that stress away for your trip, which is supposed to de-stress you. So there's always that. But yeah, that doesn't really solve the big problem of integrating with campgrounds, all of them in one place as an aggregator. All the BLM land, which is like what the dirt does now, and they do it well. And then, you know, boondocking is tough because technically it's not always legal. So those places can't really be advertised. And they change. So it's like, you kind of, I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm just rambling at this point. I'm not sure where it's going.
Oh, well, that's what we're all doing, right? Like, we're just speculating. I mean, that's part of what I kind of enjoy about the conversations between all of you. We talk about your products, we talk about your services, all those kinds of things. Who knows where the conversation's going to go? But I think this is part of the way that we further the industry and bring it forward and help all of our businesses respectively in the industry as a whole, right? Is just to shoot the shit. I don't know. I don't know if I can say shit if I'm NBC or censored on here or whatever. But anyway, you understand. I think the more conversations we have with each other, Garrett connects with Steven connects with Brian, Doug the consumer connects with all of you guys. The more ideas we come together, the more innovations come from.
You know what? I was just thinking, sorry to jump in here, but like some of the cruise line booking engines, like the big online sellers, they have a thing called Cruise Genie. And you basically say, how many people are going on your vacation? Are you an active traveler? Are you more of a sightseer? Are there mobility issues? And it kind of curates a list for you of what cruise line or cruise ship or even itinerary is best for you. I have no clue how it all works behind the scenes, but
Data.
It's really popular, like on cruiseline.com.
It's all data, right? And that's the biggest problem, is this fragmentation, right? And so some companies are providing API access, some companies aren't. Some things are being scraped from other places and stolen from here and borrowed from there, and then it changes. And so that's, I think, the big issue, is the gathering of data, and whether it's shareable, copyrighted, able to be accessed natively. Like, there's so many, it's tough. It's a lot of work. But the more data you can, that's how it works, Doug, is Cruise Genie, is they're figuring out, like, what are the best benefits and the amenities and what do these ships have? And then they're taking and plugging it into a database and basically filtering it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, again, there are sites out there that do that really well, but I don't know, like Garrett, even from your perspective, like we need some tutorials for your trailer. Like, here's cool things that Doug did with his new Eventure trailer that he, you know, and you should go do this, and this is how you set it up, and how you know, ideas. I think the more we can spark people's imaginations.
Yeah. No, yeah, that is definitely we need to work on. But we are actually, I believe tomorrow we're going to be shooting some videos, and then, like I said, we got the new website this weekend, which should show the trailer in use and all the cool stuff you can do with it.
Yeah, I mean, just because you talking about it in the beginning, and I know we're pivoting back to you real quick here, but you talking about it in the beginning, like, I didn't have a complete pick, and admittedly, I should have done some of my research, right? So that's my fault for being on vacation for a week and not researching you guys. Like, I should have asked better questions. So I apologize for that kind of disjointed aspect from my end to the show. But like, until I saw it, until I put, like, wow, like, there's a whole gazebo thing on the back end of this thing with a couch and a TV, and I can cook in it, and it just, you see those kind of little things that people are towing, and you don't imagine the possibilities. And I think if you can spark imagination and curiosity, then so many more people will be willing to try it.
I appreciate that, and I think you hit them on the head there. Just gotta show them what all it can do.
Yeah. All right. So we got a couple minutes left, gentlemen. What else are you excited about for the outdoor hospitality industry? What are you guys looking forward to for your companies or things like that in 2022, 2023, beyond? Feel free to jump in, whoever wants to start.
I mean, we've been waiting for a renter side launch for 18 months now of development. It's a pretty, decent sized team. So I am very ready to get this going. We have just over 1,000 listings currently, either in queue or currently live on the site, which I'm really proud of. So yeah, we're renter side done. Let's build the van builder marketplace next, and then work on some fun features for the renters. I guess that's kind of what we're doing. this summer. Yeah.
Awesome. Garrett, what's next for you?
We are still a young company. We did just debut this a month or so ago. So we're looking to expand our dealer base and to get it into new territories, looking to, get it into people's hands and see how people are using it. So right now we're just kind of trying to get it out there and hope people like it.
Is there something that competes with you really closely, Garrett, or is this really? I mean, obviously there's lots of tow behinds, right? But other.
I always look.
I'm not asking you to name your competitors. I'm sorry. I'm just asking in general, right?
No, I mean we're all we are our own thing. So that we really don't have competitors because nobody really has attempted to be as foul as we are. And I think we stand pretty confident even against our competitors, in terms of quality, price, and then functionality and versatility. So it's a matter of getting it out there, which is, always never fun, but always necessary.
Always a challenge, yeah. Steven, I'm curious. I forgot one thing about you. You build camper vans, or is that something you do for a business, or you just do as a hobby?
Oh, that's more just as a hobby. Kind of sell them off a couple a year. I don't build them personally. I fund them, and I get to design the layouts like this one, or the one you showed earlier in the show, kind of thing. That's an example of what we've done. But,
do you think it would be feasible for like a campground owner who wanted to offer a unique rental on their property to contact your company or one of your builders or something like that and say, I want 15 or 20 of these units to look like this. Here's a design. Let's work together. Let's make something unique. And then let's park them at my campground and rent them.
Yeah, I mean, these campers aren't cheap. I'll give you that.
But I know. Well, no, but neither. 160.
So a campground owner would go, how much is the cash on cash? Like, how much could I rent it for being stationary? It's really, I mean, it could work out. You probably want to go with more of a Garrett kind of thing because, like, Eventure, because, how much it costs, setting up glamping sites, honestly. Or go with more of some of the base builds, like a ProMaster kind of thing, and do it that way. We're just doing like 4x4 sprinters and like that sort of thing. So the higher end of it, but it has nothing to do with like Vancation specifically. It's really just.
Oh, I know. I'm just kind of just speculating and asking. It just interests me. So. Okay, guys, we've got a couple minutes left, but really appreciate you guys joining us for another episode of MC Fireside Chats. It's really interesting to learn about. I think we're going to try in the future to kind of uncover some of the new companies, the new players, the new innovations, things that are coming into the industry. There's a lot of amazing people who have been in this industry for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and we always want to hear from them. But it's really fascinating to me to uncover things like Garrett's building and things like Steven's building with his new marketplace. And Doug, you're just going to go camping, so I don't know what really value you bring to the show, but we're happy to have you here once a month anyway. For that matter, I don't know what value I bring to the show. You guys are all talking about all the amazing things anyway, and I don't even do my research, but really appreciate your taking your time here, Steven. Vancation.com. If you guys have a camper van, or maybe you're interested in creating a partnership with Steven or something like that, they can reach out to you, Steven. For all kinds of different things. And maybe there's an opportunity for private campers to partner with you in the future. Garrett, eventurelife.com. Yes?
Correct.
eventurelife.com. Check out Garrett's trailer, and for all the campground owners too. Like, maybe this is something you can reach out to Garrett and kind of propose some unique ideas to as well. Send me an email afterwards, Garrett. We'll see if we can maybe get some campground owners interested in just seeing what they can do with it, or the possibilities and stuff. Doug might go camping with one. I don't know. How often do you go camping, Doug? Is it just the one time this year?
Well, I was in Escalante, Utah last month for a week. So probably like every other month, maybe I go out.
You would go more though if you had a really cool barbecue, like margarita type party rig, right?
If I had something that didn't 8 miles, 7 miles to the gallon when I'm pulling it, yeah, I probably would.
See, there you go. That's all you need.
Miles at $8 a gallon gets, or 8 miles a gallon gets pricey.
Just write Garrett a check. He'll give you one then, and go camping. All right. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it again.
This was awesome. Thank you all.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. For those guys who didn't catch the show or didn't watch it live, you'll see the previous episodes on mcfiresidechats.com. We are a full podcast as well. That's on Google, Apple, Spotify, all those kinds of places, so you can listen later if you missed it. So check out Steven, vancation.com. Check out Garrett, eventurelife.com. Check out Doug at currentcamper.com. And we will see you next week for our Campground Owner Focus show. Got a lot of interesting discussion happen. So thank you guys. Really appreciate you joining us.
Yep. See you later.
Thank you. See you guys.
Thanks for watching this episode of MC Fireside Chats, hosted by Brian Searl and Cara Csizmadia. Have a suggestion for a future show or want to see your campground or company as part of an episode? Email us at hello@moderncampground.com. Join us next week for another episode. And don't miss the latest outdoor hospitality news and commentary from around the world at moderncampground.com.